that we received today from the New York City Department of Health and Mental Hygiene based on a resolution to increase the monkeypox vaccination sites. And I'm not gonna read the whole letter, but I'm gonna paraphrase one important paragraph that says the letter came from Maura Kennelly, the Deputy Commissioner of the Department of Health, saying that over 140,000 first and second doses have been administered, and there are currently over 20 sites in the city. So I'm gonna send the letter out to each and every one of you tomorrow, so that you guys can read it, and gives me a lot of happiness to know that city agencies are listening to what we are sending, that our resolutions do work. So I'm gonna finish my report by saying thank you and looking forward to continue doing the work. Francisco.
Back to
Yeah, I just wanted to put on the record about Whittick and the medieval festival that just passed earlier this month. We've had some light conversations about.
Francisco, you can't
Yeah.
do that during my report. You gotta wait.
Oh, I thought you were done. I'm sorry.
No. Unless you have a question, then I have to move on to
No,
the
no
agenda.
worries.
All right. Ebenezer, your report.
we need to go back to YouTube.
Yes, we are on YouTube already. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My report very short. You know, the district service cabinet meeting going to take place this Thursday, so it's not that many interaction with the city agencies to report. However, I just want to bring an issue to report about an issue that is happening in the district on the northwest corner of Amsterdam Avenue and 165th Street. I observed that there is a construction, a repair of the pet ramps that have been installed for a few months. They started this reconstruction of the pet ramps in the summer, and right now it's still barricades and nobody can cross. And this is in front of the Gregorio Luperon High School. I took pictures a few weeks ago, and today I sent an email from transportation to make sure to look into that issue and expedite the repair, because very dangerous with the student. This construction started in the summer when the school was closed, but now the school is open and still there without results. We have been working very hard in the preparation of tomorrow's public hearing for the budget, fiscal year 24. If you haven't sent your ranking, please send it. The main document is almost ready. I spent quite part of the day putting together the report that I received from the others, for some of the committee chairs, and the document is almost ready to be presented to you tomorrow. My goal is to send it out before noon. So if you haven't sent me your committee ranking, please send it to me if it's possible tonight or 8 o'clock in the morning, so I can complete the document, review it, proofread it, and send it to everybody in advance of the meeting. Thank you very much. I think on the agenda is the calendar. We're going to discuss the calendar. So I'm prepared for making any changes if you decide to do so. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is the end of my report. Is there any question? I don't hear questions, so thank you.
Have you guys had an opportunity to review the calendars that were sent out to you for January? No, actually November and December. Is there any dates that you would like to change from your committees? Is there any conflicts?
I have a question. I'm so sorry. I saw Francisco's hand, by the way. I didn't know if I was stopping him from chatting.
No. You got it. Sorry.
Okay. How are dates chosen for the committees? Is this something that's discussed among the members and then we choose the date?
Ebenezer? I can answer, but that's really mostly you. You have to unmute yourself.
Yes, I'm sorry that I have another application on top and I'm not able to get it. What is the question, Emily, again?
Our
Um,
dates assigned, the committee dates.
How the committee days assigned? Well, this is a very good question. You know, I found these dates for the committees when I came to the board 15 years ago. A few committee has been changed. I recall that the Youth and Education Committee decided to change at one time, and change it. You know, the committee brought a request to this executive committee. It was approved, and the date that I believe was the first Tuesday of the month was to the second Monday. And also the Parks Committee did that. But I found this date that is assigned for the committees. I found it. If anyone would like to make changes on the calendar, we'll have to bring it to the executive committee and see how we can coordinate the change of the meeting. Because remember, we need to ensure that all the committee happens before the executive committee, in case a business is on rapid and in your committee meeting, so it can be wrapped up in this committee. And also we need to coordinate how can we have coverage for the committee. And also we need to take into consideration that we never had meetings on Fridays. I don't know if this answers your question, but
yeah, I was also wondering because I would be interested also in like other committees that are on the same day as housing. So being that I'm in housing, but then I'm also interested in health and environment. And there's 3 committee meetings on the first Thursday of each month. That's why I was wondering why, like how that was chosen, or if it was among members that they thought that it was like the best day for them, that they were available, or if it was a board decision or something else.
you know, these 3 committees has been on the first Thursday of the month since before I became the district manager, and I've been here for 15 years. So I don't know when it was put it like that. But if you want to change it, you can make a request to the chair of this committee, and maybe it can be put it on the agenda in the future and discuss this matter.
Oh, okay. I was just wondering. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone has any conflicted dates? So hopefully we get to hear from either Wayne and Liz and Steve Simon, who are not present today. We're gonna move on to our committee reviews, committee reports. Faye, gonna go first.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, again. Well, we had our meeting. The only item that we have for this, first of all, we met, due to the holiday on the 3rd. Unfortunately, we not even have quorum. Only 2 members besides myself attended, and that brought some, or led for not to accomplish our goal, which was to complete our budget fiscal budget discussion. I sent a notification to the board asking if we can have a special meeting, but unfortunately, that's something that I didn't actually get any response whether or not we should or not. Some of the board members were not able to attend even for the second meeting because one of them was on vacation, the other one did not respond. So Maria and I actually and other member Luis Cruz decided that maybe we have a discussion about some of the items that we may have to be, that we had to basically update the our budget, our previous priority from last year, but we didn't have quorum, so I guess most of the item is going to stay as it was. So tonight or maybe tomorrow morning, I will send those items that are not going to be proposal or not going to be or should not be reflected in the new budget priority. Other than that, I wanted just to jump into our annual event, Youth and Police Building Bridges. The weather was not actually in our side. Many folks thought that it was going to be canceled, but having that responsibility on us, so we proceed and we brave basically the weather. Everything turned out wonderful. We have a lot of folks attending. This year we had an increase on folks who support the event, whether they walk, whether they came to speak or whatever way. We have a judge that actually joined the cause. We have Columbia University, Beats, definitely, like every year, support us, and many other folks. NYPD in general, but I wanted to single out the Prison 34, the 33rd, in community affairs. They gave us such a wonderful support as every year. And thanks to, I would say also to community, especially the 34, we were able to advertise the event in Link NYC. All the elected officials, I wanted to thank all of them, like State Assembly Manny de los Santos, Council Member de la Rosa, also Congressman Espaillat. They all, went there. Our colleague Jackie from Harlem, Jackie Ngaran, she was present from Mother Harlem Safe. Robert Jackson, Senator Robert Jackson, he intended to attend, but unfortunately he wasn't sure because of the weather. And he called us, but when he called us was already late at night, so I couldn't actually respond to him. But in one word, I want to also, I want to say that everything went beautiful. And of course, I cannot ignore the fact that George Washington, especially health, careers, and sciences, they were at the top with all the support that we received, besides also, what is his name? Fidelis Mircea, definitely, like every year, supported us. The only thing that I wanted to say is that, and I attribute that maybe because of the weather, I didn't see no one from community board to attend the meeting. And for some reason, I just wanted to put this up there. I don't know what's going to happen next year. But if we're really looking to support and the idea of building relationship, especially with the police department, I think that this is something that our members should look at it and at least to, appears on what thing, at least to the first part or say something. But this is something that we have very few members had attended to this, but usually we don't have. I used to have, Benizer attended, the chairman also as well. But in terms of member, I was really surprised that no one had given that, have really paid that attention to that. And I wanted to say, guys, when you need to call 911, think about it, that this is about building also relationships. It's not when we need a police officer. So, but I thank you anyway, the board, for announcing and helping those in that respect. Mr. Chairman, I want to thank you for also, providing all the support that you did, one way or another. Thank you. That's my report.
Thank you, Faye. Congratulations. From what I've heard, it was a wonderful event. Debbie, transportation chair.
My hand is raised.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't see that yellowish hand. Right, man.
I just wanted to say to Faye, I'm always there. This is the first one I've missed, I think. I was post-op with my elbow surgery, but I agree that, it's sad that more board members don't support you and attend this very important event. So, I'll be right behind you next year. Again, thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Deb.
Yeah,
Deb.
Sorry, I would just say, Mary, on that, I am completely supportive of Faye. It's not personally like the event that resonates with me for a variety of reasons, but it has but that has nothing to do with totally support our fearless leader of youth and education. And I don't, so the big thing we had on the agenda this past month, and we will be bringing a reso which passed, is the co-naming. So as people might remember, October and April are the months that we consider co-namings. This is for a fellow named John Collado, who was killed by a police officer in 2011. When he was kind of acting as a good Samaritan. It's like he was somebody came and said, like, there's a fight and can you help? And he went over to try to calm things down, and it went terribly wrong. And in fact, the family got a settlement for $5.5 million because it was an undercover police person, and he got into something when he was on his own. Like, I don't even know if he was completely on duty. I don't know what the circumstance was. So it was quite sad. And the nephew, now this happened in 2011, September 2011. And a nephew and a sort of anti-war sort of policing kind of organization pushed this, but one of Mr. Collado's kids was also on the call, but there's a nephew, I think, who has spent the past 10 years kind of speaking out on issues related to policing, et cetera, et cetera. It was a little bit of a tricky reso. I mean, it was a and I didn't know where it was going to go. Sort of highlight that Jay Mazer made a sort of speech, and then Jim Berlin came in as well, and I think it sort of gave definition to how we could think about this. So ultimately, it passed through the committee pretty strongly. So that's what I'll have. That's what we'll have for the GM.
Okay, thank you. Did they bring you like 200-300 signatures? Is that the same group?
Yeah, I mean, and I got the feeling they got them incredibly quickly because
They had an organizer working with them, some organization that was working with them.
Feel like in a sense, and I mean, this is one case. I know I just made that just a little sidebar. I know I made a big poo about, using the current technologies with things, but the co-namings, we can do, it's easy to sign a digital petition, and I don't mind receiving a digital petition in addition to the paperwork, because I think when you sign a piece of paper and you stand out there at the street corner and collect signatures, I think that's a particularly meaningful act, and particularly for what we're doing. So, and I guess the other thing I would say is I can sense from our council member that she wants to hear the community board input. I mean, a council member can go independent, and somebody could avoid the whole community board process, but she seems to be encouraging people, like, she wants to have the community have a chance to weigh in and not sort of act too unilaterally, So I think we might be seeing a few more community board. I'm just feeling it going forward.
Okay, thanks. Thank you, Mary. That's report.
Sorry. We had a wonderful presentation at our last meeting about I'm sorry, living better with low visions for the aging and how the Lighthouse Guild works with particularly seniors who have limited vision, whether, no matter what the cause, and helping them to be able to navigate the world as it is, helping them with all kinds of things. And it was very, very informative. And, I know people who have worked with the Lighthouse Guild, close friends, and they really provide a service that's miraculous in terms of helping people live at home independently. And of course, we finished our ratings for the budget, for the capital and expense budget. Last year, there was some confusion about continued support items. We reversed all of those CS items to numbered items because we realized that the agencies are not working on any of these things that we asked for. So our next meeting is going to be November 3rd, and we'll be having a presentation from some of the memory study research programs that are going on at Columbia. So that'll be an interesting discussion as well. Any questions? Oh, well, no, it's okay. Never mind. That other thing is not community board related. Sorry.
I have a question.
You have a question?
Yes. Yes, Mary, thank you, for your report and all the work that you had allowed us to do together. So considering that Isabella and our annual, event that we put together, or we used to put together at Isabella, I'm wondering if you have already established that relationship with the person that had substitute, Barry Lehman, rest in peace, like, the chairman said. I'm wondering if there is any window so we can get back there. I don't know, but I really miss that very much in entertaining our, seniors there. So I'm wondering if you have something to say about that.
I do. I can tell you right now that there is no way that community will be able to be involved at Isabella now or anywhere in the near future.
That's sad.
That's it.
Wow. Well, I guess that we should think of the medium. Thank you, Mary.
Yep. Okay.
All right. Emily, your report from the Housing Committee and the last meeting.
Okay, thanks. Hi, everyone. So our last meeting was very busy. It lasted like 4 hours, but that's because I've never been part of a budget ranking. So I didn't know that it would take that long. Everything was brand new to me. So the first item on the agenda was 37 Hillside Avenue weekend extension hour from Riseboro. Basically, at the end, or maybe let me give some context. We asked questions, or we tried to make a motion to test out the extension of extending the hours on Saturday from week to week. And then the tenants could let us know whether or not it works for them. And we didn't really second the motion. People were still a little bit hesitant. And then maybe they tried changing the motion. That's what they thought, maybe if we change it, it'll work. So they tried changing it to waiting for a month. They're doing a test trial for a month for the Riseboro project on 37 Hillside Avenue to do extensions in the weekends, mostly for interior work, which is supposedly supposed to be way less noisier. But then there was a lot of questions among the members because nobody seconded that either. There was a lot of questions about the members on how permits work. And they let us know like, oh, they renew weekly, these permits, and we still weren't sure if temporary permission for permits were allowed. In case we wanted to do this trial run on doing it for a month and then letting us know in the next meeting how it went for the tenants. So we still were left with a slew of questions of if there are open-ended approvals that are allowed from our end, if that's something that could be given and taken away quickly with an agency or with the city or directly with who. And some members even said that they don't think that like committees or the board have capacity to make these types of decisions. And if we get permits from DOB, can we do it? Can they do it themselves and then get a permit week by week, and then tenants could come to us? Like we were asking so many questions that we didn't really quite know where to go. Then we said we could table it to inquire about whether DOB would allow week-to-week assessments of Saturday extended hours. And still in the end, the tenants would not approve of the extension because they don't trust Riseboro's timeline and they want their peace and quiet in the weekends anyway. And Riseboro agreed to do more engagement and outreach within the community because that's one of the asks that we had when the board turned it down earlier this year when Riseboro came to the board. So in the end, we still decided that we don't have enough knowledge on permits for DOB, the city, and we don't know enough about weekly renewals of these permits and if there could be a trial run, if we even have a say in permits. So one member or a few members said that this discussion belongs to the land use committee, and I know that this did come from land use already. I already see some head nods because they deal with permits and committees, and they still think that committees don't have the power to make this approval. So I know that someone said that land use passed it to us because it's a noise matter. So regardless, at the end of this agenda item, the motion was to table the matter so that we can get information from Department of Buildings and understand what we have authority to vote on here. So whatever the board has authority to do in regards to these permits. And they also suggested that I talk to Wayne Benjamin and the chair about the matter. So it does seem like there's kind of like a back and forth going on here about Riseboro, and I know that this is longer than the time that I've been here at the board probably. So I know that if you have questions about this, I'll just say what I've gotten in the last couple meetings about Riseboro. So that's just one of the agenda items. Should I ask people if they have questions about that, or should I keep going?
No, just yeah, you have a full 3 minutes to finish.
Okay. Oh. All right. So
2.5.
Right. So this motion was passed. All the members said yes. And then the next item was the budget ranking that lasted a very long time, but we sent it in, thank God. And then all old business, some items that were mentioned were the rent increase for stabilized apartments. Basically, most people's response was, let's see what happens, what risks are taken or how it impacts the community, because we couldn't even like think of how we could prepare for this. And then Another item for the old business was the Fort Washington Armory. People are still inquiring about whether we're having a hearing for use of the space with elected officials and agency members and experts as they had requested a while back. And I know that there's information that we were still looking for, like the contracts and all that stuff, but they were still waiting to hear on whether there's a hearing or not. That's basically what was being looked for. And then HPD matter, there's 705 West and 709 West 170th Street. Sorry, I'm like, what? 705 West and 709 West 170th Street buildings are in the distressed properties list, and the landlord has not been doing very great maintenance in these buildings at all. And something about, I'm so sorry, because I need to go back into like the discussion and listen in, because it was a 4-hour meeting, so I didn't catch it till the end. But discuss the programs for the landlords to fix these buildings because they're in very bad condition. So those are the topics that were discussed in our very long 4-hour meeting. What are your questions?
I know Debbie's first. Can I just get, for the purposes of the minutes, that number of those buildings that need renovations?
Oh, 705 West and 709 West. They're both on 170th Street
Thanks.
on the distressed properties list.
So thank you, Emily, for you being so brave and stepping in last minute to fill in. You're doing a marvelous job. You see, patience does pay off.
Yeah.
I want to come back and talk about one of your points, but I'll give Debbie a briefly amount of time to talk about or answer or ask you, because you need more answers than questions. So Debbie, go right ahead. Debbie, your hand is up. Unmute yourself. There you go.
Emily, you're doing great, and I can't even imagine like stepping into what's been a complicated committee without the benefit of just sitting and observing for a long time. And I appreciate how thoughtful and game, and can't imagine the hours you've had to put in. And you know, I'm sure I speak for everybody. If you feel like anybody can be helpful to you in supporting you, we're please just send an email or a smoke signal or what have you. And this is just a little plea. Like, first of all, this isn't a land use. Land use is for zoning changes. This isn't a zoning change. I mean, this is our job, is to perform some of these things. Not everything is going to be an entire like town hall and stuff like that. It does feel to me, something I really struggle with is we are facing an astonishingly epic human services crisis, homelessness crisis, housing insecurity crisis, lack of housing, people living doubled and tripled up and living in bedroom, whatever. And we have done, yet we are not being supportive of building affordable housing. We are the land of no. And we are, and I don't know, if these are very bad actors, then I defer to the committee to say, we've got to keep Riseboro on a short leash, but they are building affordable housing. And if they're doing interior work, like we're making this thing into something it's not. It's just like, maybe it's a rubber stamp. I don't know what our concerns are about what's going to happen. They were having like meetings with these tenants weekly. Like I've lost the plot, but this neighborhood has not had a single unit come through Housing Connect. And yet there has been nothing on the agenda, and this isn't your fault, of your committee about affordable housing. And it breaks my heart because I have a job where we see people, hundreds of people a week, and these tend to be elderly that are feeling like, I do not want to age renting a room without a kitchen and a shared bathroom, and this is no way to age.
Correct.
And so I'm saying this with emotion because there is so much pain and so much housing insecurity, and people don't want to leave the neighborhood because their families are here and their networks are here, and there has not been a single unit in Washington Heights or Inwood, and yet we were negative about the Eliza, and that finally went up, and then this one is like for seniors and affordable, and it's like, if we're really, I mean, this is a city, there's lots of construction, sometimes stuff stinks, but like, why are they still building this building? Like, what's the problem? Open it up.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, sorry. All right. My executive committee folks. Angel, before I move on to the next committee chair.
I think Daryl's after me, but
Well,
I just want to echo
Daryl.
Debbie.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to echo Debbie's frustrations. We got to stop. This is like, it feels like it's nonsense. We need affordable housing. We have a housing crisis. We have a homelessness crisis, and we've got to stop being the land of no's every single time. The last time I participated in this 37 Hillside Avenue goes back to a moment when I was actually on the committee before I became the second vice chair. Why are we still having this conversation? And back then it was some issue about not enough tenants were involved in the committee. Well, the outreach was done. Public notices were put out. So Emily, my question to you is, how many tenants showed up to this meeting? How involved was how involved were other community members? Or was this more frustrations coming out of committee members who want to continue to hold back a project that we desperately need in our neighborhood? And again, I'm going to apologize now for getting so passionate and frustrated about this, because why are we still talking about an issue that I was a part of before I became the second vice chair of this community board in January?
Well,
Yeah, so it's my understanding that it passed in the committee, but then it didn't pass in the board. So I'm not quite sure. I mean, yeah, I did see the asks, and then they responded to the asks from the concerns that came out of us not passing it. I believe it was in January. So it's in the January minutes. And they responded this past month, and I believe I'm not sure if Ebenezer.
I can let me step in. I can help you answer that.
Mhm.
So your question of why are these people back trying to get a variance? Is that what you're trying to ask?
My question is, how many community members were actually involved in the latest committee meeting that's holding, apparently there's a tremendous outcry from tenants and people that live outside of this building that is holding this entire project back. Like, that is my understanding, and that is what people keep telling me, that this committee meeting must have like 50, 75 people showing up yelling about this bad actor, I suppose, that's building doing this construction work. At least that's what I'm getting. And again, I'm sorry for the frustration. It's because this is a serious problem in our city, and I'm getting very frustrated by how we continuously block housing from happening in this community.
Well, I think we should, instead of acting as a rubber stamp, as a community board, then we should continue to ask instead of just rubber stamping and agreeing with all those nice presentations that are being put forth. We should just start there. You
Rubber
don't get
stamping what?
in the sense of when these developers come and make their presentations about the wonderful stuff that they're going to do in our community, we don't ask the right questions as to how much of your apartment stock is going to be dedicated to Housing Connect, like you perfectly said, or how many of them are going to be, 60-40 or 70-30, 80-20? Those are the real questions.
The reality is that this is all affordable housing.
So just to clarify, I think that
Wait a minute. One person at a time.
Good.
This is 100%. My understanding is that this project is 100% affordable
it's
housing for
100%
seniors.
affordable for senior citizens.
This is
or
a
residents.
no-brainer.
I think the biggest issue, or something that's kind of stopping it, is that the tenants just don't want the extended hours on Saturday, and that they don't really believe in the timelines that Riseboro gave, because there keeps being delays. And yeah, because of the pandemic, there has been delays in the receiving of materials, which has kind of put them on pause, or they've only been doing partial work. So I feel like, yeah, these meetings have been really long, and they would give us details depending on what the questions are. So yeah, it is really important. that we ask certain questions, but it seems to be that just the tenants don't want all that racket and noise, especially now that there's people that work from home who get that noise throughout the weekdays, and then they want peace in the weekends. So Michael Wolf is the tenant like representative, and there's been another member or two that would show up during these meetings and say like, yeah, we wish that this would go up, and I understand the project, it's just that there's already enough racket and noise in like 5 days a week, and still the project keeps being extended. But obviously, yeah, they explained, oh yeah, because of the pandemic and the materials and all of that. So it's just a lot of layers. In the end, we still didn't understand like the case about the permits and if we could give like a trial run, and the tenants
Okay.
were still like, no. So yeah.
All right. So Catherine, Steve, and Faye.
I was next.
Daryl,
You know,
Daryl,
this is the executive committee, Daryl. You know better than
The executive committee.
Yes. So go ahead, Catherine. Maybe under new development, I'll give you
Sorry,
some.
what?
no,
I get Daryl. This is
Okay.
this is the executive committee. You remember that?
So you want me to talk or not? I don't really understand.
Well,
Because I've been a part of this committee and part of this discussion. And what,
yeah, but the executive
hear what-
committee, the rules are the rules. It's only for chairs. You know that better. Come on, Catherine.
I'm a chair.
Okay. I think hearing what Emily's saying, there's a lesson in how chairs have collectively worked, right? And I want to take a cue, Emily, from Isidro and licensing, in that there have been matters that go to licensing that have similar, I think, kind of context, obviously very different matters, but similar context. And there have been others where, example, you have a certain players or group or stakeholders, I should say, that have not wanted the timeline to keep moving because they want a resolution. So I think part of it is sounding to me like conflict resolution. And I think there's some lessons learned in licensing in how we need to kind of keep moving forward. So I feel like maybe connecting with Isidro and on some of like how he's approached some of those decision-making points. I think that, and I'm going to be real, I get lost in the number of buildings, but what it sounds like to me is that if the tenant representatives on those blocks have not reached a satisfactory point with the developer, but we have to make a decision, then we need to put it up to a vote and make the decision and be able to present a timeline in that resolution of like, look, it's come to the board at all of these points. This is how many tenants from this area came to all of these number of meetings. These were the asks, because it sounds like some of the questions that folks have and wants aren't necessarily feasible within the scope of the city work and within the scope of the board. And so it's like, if this is something that we need to move forward, then we need to move forward with the decision with the information that we have at hand, right? Because it seems like there's some information that folks want that isn't necessarily possible to get, unlikely to get, and ultimately lands between the developer and the folks in that area. And folks also mentioned it months past, right? Like, we don't set the standard for what appropriate developer outreach is. There is a guidance that they receive and what they're supposed to do, what's within their purview to do. And so whether or not we think it's better, that's one thing, but that's for board members when they vote, to vote based on their values and to vote based with the information at hand.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to offer those points.
Yeah, I think, Catherine, is a matter of process, and Emily has been trying to guide this process through without having all of that information that she's probably gathering as much information now, right, Emily? As you progress, she's not really 100%, but she's getting help. And I'll give you the good news shortly, Emily. I have great news for you. Don't open those eyes. Steve Simon, help us on the way. Steve.
Yeah, I think Emily basically has summarized the issue here. And the issue is not whether we support affordable housing. we support the project. The question is whether or not the developer should be entitled to an exception to the normal rules for how construction is to take place, and whether it should take place in off hours and on weekends. Which and we have decided to respect the wishes of people, the neighbors who have been disturbed by the construction and who don't wish to be disturbed, 6 days a week. To limit it to 5 days a week. That is not the same as saying that we are opposed to affordable housing. I mean, the two should not be equated. So I don't have a huge problem with the fact that we are respecting the wishes of people who live right there in the immediate area and who would like to have some peaceful and quiet enjoyment of their homes on Saturdays. I think that's a legitimate position for the community board to take. And if the developer can't convince the neighbors that they should accept an extra day of construction, then I think that's their problem, not ours.
Yeah, and Angel made a Faye and then Darrell. And Angel made a great point. I mean, is it they neighbors or is it some neighbors? Because there's a
No one still has given me what the number, how many people showed up to this meeting, how many people are up in arms with the pitchforks,
exactly.
like
That's what I'm
arguing
talking about.
this. Like, I want to know how many people, right?
It has
Like,
always been the few has spoken on behalf of the many. That's his history. I mean, that's just been what's transpired in a lot of different instances. So, that's why you got to have, Kimberly, a complete, fuller picture of like the way Angel put it to you. Is the whole neighborhood screaming, saying, no, don't have him on? Or is it just 2 or 3 people making all the noise? So we'll get to that. Faye, then Darrell.
Me? Yeah, Faye?
You have your hand up, Faye.
Yes, thank you. Yes. What I wanted just to go to revise the question about whether or not the question that we should ask, how many what would be the numbers of assignment, in the terms of the developer saying that they're going to provide certain amount of housing and this and that. So what I wanted to say is, in the past, I remember members like perhaps Wayne asking what would be the portion that they're going to be designing for low income family and stuff like that. But one thing that I am not sure is how consistent the board has been in terms of revising those promises, because like not only with housing, I have seen that happening, that they promise that they're going to designate X amount of low income family, for example, but that happened with in terms of folks, in terms of and developer coming like the George Washington Bridge. I think when the board asked also then if they can create, for example, employment for folks in the community, all these promises that all these developers promise us, I'm not sure if the board has been consistent in revising those promises. That's what I wanted just to say. Thank you.
Darrell.
Yeah, just a few things. And going back to what Angel and Debbie were saying too, it's like first of all, yes, I don't think we should be the board of no, but to be clear, the committee voted to approve this extension a while ago, and it was the full board that went against the committee's recommendation. That was a while ago. Second, we do have very good, person on the committee, Michelle, who is like really working with the tenants. And unfortunately, they have been very unanimous. And I told them, like, I would make a different decision if I lived in that building, because what they're really doing, yeah, it's quiet on Saturdays, but they're extending it for months and months of more noise. But that's their prerogative. And, if that's what they want to do, and the board just keeps coming back to us, or the developer just keeps coming back to us with no solutions. So, that's kind of where it stands. I mean, had the full board gone with the committee's nearly unanimous recommendation months ago, we wouldn't be talking about this.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Emily, for holding the fort. I know it's an extremely delicate and sensitive, but help is on the way. I'll get around to that in just a second. Um, Joel Abreu, you're gonna, since you chaired the last meeting, you get to be give us your report on the Business Development Committee.
All right. Hi guys. It's my first one, so pretty good. Thank you for the guidance, Cisco. I appreciate that. So we there was a couple of new people into the committee. So we introduced ourselves just to get acquainted with us, and we did reach a quorum in order to vote for the capital and expense budget for next year. So nothing really changed. We had a few new items on the list of the budget this year. On the budget this year that was new, it was just the increase funding for cannabis education for small businesses, and an increase, and this is on the expense side, increased funding for New York City Business Solution Centers. The committee voted to kind of abbreviate two budget items. And those two items are on the minutes. And then we also wanted to add, advertising. Instead of marketing, we chose to use the word advertising. So we kind of reworded that a little bit for one of the budget items. So we voted. We were able to pass our ranking. That was on the budget side. Some old business about cannabis. Again, we wanted to let pass on to the members of the community that conditional cultivated licenses for adult use processors, dispensaries, and cultivators are now available. So I think cultivators closed. I think processors and dispensaries are now available. And conditional uses are basically like a temporary license before the regulation rolls out. So I provided a link to some information on that. Some new business. We spoke a little bit about the Office of Nightlife. It's a new office that's kind of supporting, the nightlife, and Community Board 12 has a huge nightlife, so it's a good office to kind of chime into our meetings. And I told the committee that I'm gonna bring in someone to kind of explain what they do. They have a great mediation program, and I know a lot of our tenants complain about the noise, especially because I'm on the licensing board, so I know that's a constant issue. So it's something that I want to expand on to the committee. Committee was on board, but no, that's pretty much it. Any questions?
I have a question.
Sure.
I need you, as a committee, to expand beyond more than what is currently happening. And I'll tell you why. Business development, as is, entails financial technology, social media marketing. You and I spoke about it, Joel and Francisco.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
How do we venture out from the current economic and business model into something more feasible into the 21st century? How does open restaurant and the new law, how does that play into our businesses? How does that affect us proactively, positively, or not? Which city agencies can we speak to in order to advance economically? We need to get going, guys. We need to make it happen. Go ahead.
I agree 100%. And that's our intention, to kind of expand. I know a lot of our focus has been on the cannabis industry, but it's been a hot topic. Although we did discuss, I believe it was Hector that did mention that there was a very small, and the whole board, the whole committee agreed that it's a very small area of the whole general economy of Community Board 12. And one of the other committee members, his name is Carl, kind of, and this is during our discussion of budget, that there needs to be a way where we connect all the businesses, right? Just so we can be as a supportive body to all the businesses. I do agree with you, Eli, that I don't think enough businesses in Washington Heights know about us. And I will bring it to the committee, bring it to the chair, that we have to expand and kind of expand and encompass more of our role. And lastly, I do want to mention that one of our budget items was to do an educational campaign on the potential impact that these new regulations that haven't come out yet, because we're still using the emergency standard of these outdoor sign zoning areas. I mean, not zoning areas, eating areas. So that's one thing that we are working on. We're going to work on a way to communicate what's the new regulation on outdoor eating areas.
Yeah,
But-
before I hand it over to Francisco,
Mhm.
it would be because Isidro is about to step away from me. He's tired. Just to make it would be smart for you guys to take, because you get the budget review and your recommendations, you tend to get buried into the rest of them. Write a separate letter and then send it to SBS so that they can directly get your input as to what your recommendations are, instead of being buried into the whole entire 100 different recommendations. You and Francisco, you guys, intelligent enough to sit down and make that happen. Francisco, a few minutes. Go ahead.
Yeah. I just wanted to give a big thank you and an appreciation to Joel for holding down the fort. I really do thank you for giving your time and energy to run that meeting. So just wanted to point that out.
Thank you, Cisco.
I have reached out to what's the agency that handles open restaurants?
DOT.
Excuse me?
It's that DOT.
Yes. And specifically about the effects of the open restaurant policy towards our restaurant group. I have had negative feedback just being out about the open restaurants, about places not construction not being used, of course, rats, so on and so forth. And then there's the positive people who say it's helping their business, so on and so. I wanted to get a better understanding from that as to how this is affecting our restaurants, our businesses. But I haven't been able to reach anyone, and I've reached out to about multiple people at DOT. I think Debbie helped. Simati was helping at one point. I think I even reached out to Ebenezer to try to get someone to come into our committee to talk about what those effects look like. We haven't been able to get someone yet, but I try this every month. I reach out to certain agencies every month so we can have something besides cannabis. Because again, cannabis is huge and we haven't even rolled out yet. Like this stuff hasn't even been rolled out yet. So we got to make sure that we get our community prepared for cannabis. And I really want other committees to also focus on that as well. Because I'm not seeing that. So I want you, that aging, youth, all of us, we need to really focus on this, licensing as well. But I'm gonna just round out my thing. We have reached out to DOT and haven't heard back. So just wanted to say that.
Yeah.
Right.
Just to get. I'm sorry.
I gotta stop it there, guys. Angel, is it minutes related? Because I need to move on to Isidro for his report.
You can move on. It's not minutes related. So
okay, what is it?
Did we
Say
go
that
to
again?
new business?
You have your hands up.
Yeah, I was gonna ask Joel a question, but if you need to move on, we can just move on.
Yeah, I need to move on. Isidro, you're on you. You can. It's your report. Time is yours.
Thank you, Chair. So the license committee had a great meeting this past Wednesday. Historically, our practically shortest meeting ever. I have nothing to report. We only have 9 resolutions. Some of them were like withdrawn. The rest were killed because they didn't complete this enough. They didn't submit the required documents. So I have nothing to report. You will see the minutes and the resolutions later on, which be very, very few. Thank you, Chair.
All right. Last but not least, Steve Simon, and then we'll go to new business and call it a night. Hopefully, he'll take full 4 minutes. How was your meeting, Steve? The other 2 community boards you were on.
From the Parks Department perspective, they went very well. Speaking now, we're at my Community Board 12 hat. At the Health Environment Committee, we got a status report from New York Presbyterian Hospital on the work it's doing to come up with an assessment of the community's health needs. This is a requirement that it has to perform this assessment every 3 years and update its community health plan based on this assessment. We urge them, I don't know what kind of influence we'll actually have or effect we'll have on the outcome or the final product, but we urge them to include in this assessment and its health plan a set of proposals that Dr. Corwin, the president of the hospital, made to us several years ago when we first opposed the closing of the psych beds at the Allen Hospital. Dr. Corwin said that the hospital's preference was to expand its outpatient mental health programs as opposed to its inpatient program. And he listed at least a half dozen or more possible outpatient programs, which maybe 1 or 2 of them have actually been implemented. We're urging the hospital to go ahead and implement the rest of them and to include them in the community health plan. These are proposals made by the hospital's own president, and we would hope that the hospital would be sincere in wanting to carry them out and to include them in the plan that it submits to the state health department. The other thing we urged is that the hospital will conduct an aggressive campaign to encourage people to get vaccinated for COVID and for other diseases. It still strikes me as being truly unfortunate that in our community and in the shadow of this major institution, we have a significantly lower percentage of people getting vaccinated than in the rest of Manhattan and in the rest of the city as a whole. And I would hope that the hospital would see fit to go out there and conduct a greater outreach and try to convince people who live in Washington Heights and Inwood that they need to be vaccinated. The positivity rates in our community for the week prior to our committee meeting. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to look at the latest figures today, but as of October, as of the week ending October the 3rd, our positivity rates were lower than the rest of the city, strangely enough. But there was still 129 new cases in that week, and in the month since our previous committee meeting, there were over almost 1,200 new cases in our district, and 9 more people who died as a result of COVID. So the pandemic is not over, and we're still adversely affected by it and seeing its results in our district day by day. I expect at the next meeting we're going to get a report from the New York State Nurses Association on the status of its contract negotiations with the hospital. I couldn't quite follow the discussion between Faye and Mary earlier about Isabella. I mean, we do have a regular report from Betty's, not really her successor, but the person who has taken over Betty's responsibilities at this point, the Director of Marketing and Communications for the entire MJHS system, Diane Ashley. So if you need to connect with her, I can certainly put you in touch with her if you're not already in touch with her. Actually, I think you are. Mary, I think she's come to one of your committee meetings, so you don't need me to put you in touch with her. But she has reported to us that they're not ready to open up the facilities for any public events at this stage. I could go on and on, but that's my report.
Okay.
I guess Ellie stepped away. Mary, you have your hand up, so go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to say, in light of the hospital reaching out and setting up places and areas for giving out the vaccines, the DA's office, in conjunction with WICOA, had an event on Friday, the Seniors Safety and Wellness Fair on 166th Street, and the hospital did send a contingent from the clinics to give flu vaccines and the new COVID vaccines, and they were pretty busy. So I know I got my flu vaccine. I didn't want to get them both together, but so that was great, corner area that we had at that fair.
Tell me again where that was.
It was on 166th Street in front of the Alianza building in the street.
Oh, very good. Well, what day was that?
Last Friday.
Okay, thank you. I made a point in my meeting of encouraging the hospital to do more than just have one public event for flu shots. I was disappointed that they're only doing one event. They should be doing much. They should be doing much more.
Yeah, but
Totally
let
agree.
you know they were there. So.
All right. So before we go into new business, I'd like to just read a paragraph from our Parks Chair, Liz Ritter, reporting that the reopening of Ann Loftus Park on Thursday. It was a great ceremony after a 1-year closure for renovation of the central wading pool, which is now fully accessible, and engaging water fountains play feature. There's also a beautiful half basketball court and a new climbing structure. So far, the community reception has been excellent. Guys, you should visit the park. Tagman and Broadway and Loftus, great park. They did a wonderful job there. New business, like to, before I move on to Faye, announce the reappointment of our really, really loved community board member, Mariel Ali. She was reappointed yesterday. So it was a good decision by MPPO.
Thank you.
Angel, before I move on to Faye.
I mean, if it's new business, you can give her the first and then I can go.
Yeah, so Faye.
Yes, thank you again, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to say thank you, Board President Mark Levine and Deputy Commissioner Miosotti Nunez, and also from Index Representative Shadi Tineo, and of course the Dominican Council for all the support that they gave us for attending our event and making our event, to be a complete success. So I want to thank you them. That's all I want to say. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So that's all, folks, unless anyone has anything to say. I'd like to.
Yeah, I wanted to, I was just giving Faye the floor before me. Just to keep in mind that I know it came up last month. It came up both at the executive committee meeting and it came up at the general board meeting. And it's the issue around enforcement on the streets, how it's not really Debbie's committee that really manages that, but then it's not really a public safety issue. So just we need to, at some point, probably have a talk about that And maybe, I don't know if it makes sense for it to be an executive committee or in a different setting. But I'm sure people want to see some kind of resolution, so that Debbie doesn't continue to get the complaints about the enforcement stuff that she can't really do anything about. And then public safety doesn't, says I can't do anything about it either. So just figuring out a time for us to brainstorm what is going to be the solution around that.
There's always something that can be done as long as there's the will to it. Debbie, before I call it a day.
Which agency is responsible for
Yeah,
enforcement?
I just, and thanks for the nudge, Angel, because Ebenezer and I do need to connect, because he was going to try something and I was going to try something, but I don't know what happened. Whatever, I will follow up. So Hector Bonilla is on my committee supposedly, but he hasn't responded to any of my emails and he didn't come to my last meeting. Is there something I should know, or is
Let's talk offline tomorrow. There's something. I will talk offline. I'll text you so we can talk.
Thank you, Eli.
No problem. All right, guys. I'd like to call the meeting for adjournment. Can I get a second?
Second.
Seconded.
Good night.
Bye, Catherine. Catherine,
Bye.
you're
Bye,
like
guys.
Everybody.
Catherine. You're like this, like.
It's a Monday. It's the
Emily, I'll
Monday.
be in touch with you. I need to talk to you, Emily.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you.
Angel, Catherine, mañana we'll touch bases.